Why are you waving that flag? Canadians, why are you waving that maple leaf? Americans, why are you waving that star-spangled banner? New Zealanders, Australians, Germans, Swedes, why are you guys waving the flag of the nation state? It's time people start realizing who we are and who we're not. And that's what I want to talk about today as things hit the logical conclusion as they have in Ottawa, Canada. I mean, is anybody surprised that the state came down heavy-handed? I'm not. I still think what happened was positive in that it was a show of solidarity and a show of numbers to the powers that be, that they don't have as much control as they think they do. So I think all in all, that was positive. But I want to drill down on this thing about the flag because actually, well, two things happened to me yesterday and today. One was I was in one of the nearby towns with my little girl, and we stopped by one of the rallies that were happening there. Every Saturday there's rallies all over Canada. I think all over the world now. And we of course knew some people there, and a nice lady came up to my daughter and wanted to give her a little Canada flag. And my daughter didn't want to take it. Probably mostly because she's just shy and she just didn't want to take something from somebody she didn't recognize. But it got me thinking about the flag and why you've never seen me wave a Canadian flag or wear any emblems or anything like that of Canada. And when I did say fairly recently that I, for the first time in my life, was somewhat proud to be a Canadian, I explicitly said not to the de facto state of Canada, but to the people on the land that I share this world with. If anything, that's what I'm proud of. But then I heard from a friend who sent me a video kind of as a reminder to the importance of not waving the flag of the nation state. And perhaps if another flag was waved in Ottawa, things might have gone a little bit different. So, first of all, the nation-state flag represents nothing but the de facto state that was created by a bunch of cronies to rule over you. Okay, so most of the world today, I think I can't say for sure every country, but I will go out on a limb and say at least 90% of them are de facto, meaning that they are ruled by force and not by choice, not by consent. There is no real consent to be governed except the tacit agreement that you tacitly agreed to when you didn't object to the birth certificate, the SIN number, the driver's license, the citizenship, the registration, the residency. All of these terms are just corporate terms. They're just legal terms. And they entrap you in some kind of jurisdiction. And these things aren't any real representative of what you are. A man, a woman, a child of God, a father, a mother, a sister, a daughter, a brother. These are just terms to put you in a little box to control you. And I've never been a patriot. Never. I hear people using that term endearingly, you know, like, oh, he's a real patriot. And I think a lot of people use that term in a good way, meaning a good thing, meaning that, you know, here's another brother in the resistance or something like that, you know. And maybe you can be a patriot to the land. But as I see this resistance that's we've been witness to for Well, it lasted, I believe, 22 days in Ottawa, plus the time of the convoy, and is now started all over the world. I see everybody waving these flags. And I suppose there's just a huge misunderstanding. But I want to challenge you to think about what you are waving. Because the flag you're waving, you might think that you have some kind of sense of brotherhood or sense of community with that flag. And I do get that. I wholeheartedly get that. But it's important to understand that in the eyes of the enemy, which I believe is the nation state, I don't believe in the nation state, especially the way it exists in a de facto state, is that you are, by waving that flag in any kind of confrontation, you are positioning yourself to be subjugated and potentially brutally attacked. Because when you wave that flag, you're identifying yourself as a subject of that de facto corporate nation state. Not as people wanting to have dialogue. And this is the big thing that went wrong in Ottawa. It's one of the things. Of course, lots of agent provocateurs, total mass media, outright lying. I could go on for hours about all those things. But a big thing that went wrong is that when the shit hit the fan, you waved the wrong flag. The truckers said they wanted dialogue. They said they wanted peace. Yet they waved a flag that doesn't represent peace and doesn't represent dialogue. They waved a flag that's a symbol of bondage. A nation-state flag, a corporate nation-state flag, symbolizes that nation-state. And by you wearing it, you are admitting that you are a subject of that nation-state. Now, some people might go, Curtis, you're sounding crazy here. Us Canadians, we are Canadians and we love the Canadian Charter and this and that and the other. Okay, so there are some things in the Charter that sound okay. But fundamentally, the Canadian Charter is just a corporate charter. And you have positioned yourself as a subject of that corporation, or an employee, if you will. An employee that can be bossed around. An employee where, on one hand, you were a man or woman, free, born with God-given rights. And by taking the role and assuming the citizenship, the residency, all of these jurisdictional traps, you traded away your God-given rights for privileges and benefits granted to you by the state, not granted to you by God. And things that can be granted to you by the state can be taken away by the state, just like we saw with this Emergencies Act. Things that are granted to you by God can only be taken from God, and anything else would be a violation of human rights. So the flag that people should be flying is the white flag, which is the internationally recognized flag of dialogue, ceasefire, and peace. A lot of people think that it's the flag of surrender, and it's certainly been interpreted as that throughout history. But when you talk about international law, the white flag is recognized for ceasefire, peace, and diplomacy. For dialogue. Not for war. You want to go to war? Fly Jolly Roger. But that's what people need to be doing. And the reason I felt compelled to put this video out is a lot of other countries in the world are a little bit behind where Canada was, because Canada started this thing, this kind of trucker uprising. And so people in New Zealand, perhaps Australia, perhaps other European countries, you have a chance to come out of this without violence. There's a lot of rumors in Canada here that the soldiers or the infantry police, whatever you want to call them, that were deployed in Ottawa were brought in from other places. I don't think it would be I would be stretching it to say that they were brought in from neighboring provinces or things like that around outside of Ottawa. That's probably obvious. There was so many cops and military present. And but there are rumors that this is the UN. Now, I'm not making that claim, but I've been talking about a UN takeover for a long time. If you listen to my Liberty on the Land podcasts or you've followed me on my live streams, there's a number of moves that we can expect as this thing rolls out. The banking thing happened. I was talking about that for at least 18 months, that the Hail Mary move would be a move on finances. Now, this one we just saw by seizing the assets or freezing the accounts of truckers involved in the convoy or the protest, or people that donated to the Give, Send, Go or GoFundMe campaigns of the truckers. This is a signal, people. This is a signal that you better get your assets under control. Now, we all have to use the commercial banking system, unfortunately, in order to buy the things that we need on a day-to-day basis. However, you should be diversifying those assets. Now, I'm not an expert on these things, but I've done that for a very long time. I've been diversified in precious metals for well over 20 years. And within the last year or so, really started moving into the crypto space just as a hedge. I'm not sitting here advocating for any of this stuff. It's not really my wheelhouse. But I do have a lot of friends that it is, and I trust them, and they've done well with it. And it makes sense to me. Maybe crypto is one big psyop, but have you seen the US dollar? You know, so all these things are just utilities. But I don't want to get too derailed on the money thing, but that was part of it. And the next big move is something from the UN. I've talked about the UN treaties for a very long time, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Treaties like UNDRIP or Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, things like this. And all of these nation states have signed on to these things. So the agenda is all in there. And it's very clear. And they're begging for a reason to bring down the hammer. And a big part of the risk there for us, besides obvious coercion and violence, is that if people who aren't from here come here, they don't really care about you. If all those police in Ottawa were from Ottawa and we're all Canadians, I think they have a hard time bringing down the hammer. Because it's like there's a meme recently, actually, I'll put it up here. It's, what did you do at work today, Daddy? Oh, I just smashed a bunch of faces of people trying to defend their liberties. You know, this is where we're at. And so I guess I want to just close in this with a word about what I hope people pull from this, especially people that were involved in the convoy. Because I'm hearing people say the next stage for the convoy is to have a general strike. And I saw one video where they said we're going to have a general strike starting the 21st. And I see some logistical problems with that. One of the major ones is that if you're asking the truckers to have a general strike, at least half of those truckers in Ottawa are 4 days from home. So I don't know how that's going to work. Especially if you want to be prepared for a general strike. And I know for a fact most people are not even close to prepared for the real shortages that might come from all this. And the thing that I just cannot help but think, and I'm not saying that this is the case, is that I cannot help but think that if all these truckers walk out of Ottawa and call a general strike, that you are playing into the exact hands that the New World Order would like you to play in, and might be a perfect trigger for their Great Reset. Because let's just be honest. Are you prepared? If I asked you right now, if you couldn't leave your property without the risk of being severely harmed or coerced, by the state. If you couldn't leave your property for months, would you survive? Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Do you have enough firewood to get through the rest of the winter? Do you have power? Do you have diesel? Do you have gasoline? Are you actually prepared for a general strike? Do you actually know what that could mean? This sounds like a terrible idea to me. And there's other people out there too that are saying things like, we need to storm the courthouses and we need to restore justice. Whose courthouses? Yours? Do you think that's going to work? You think that you just get a bunch of people together and storm a building, a government building, that now they're going to have dialogue with you? Now you just sit some guy up there on the judge's table and say, I judge ye this. Are you kidding me? It's insane. Stop worshiping at the altar of the state. Stop it. Stop waving your damn flags. Stop worshiping the government. And stop asking them to change things. They're not going to change anything. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to us. We're on our own, folks, here. This is the moment that we were put here for, was to take back our power as children of God, to embody the power of creation and create something new. Do not waste your energy on tearing down old, dying structures. The government is dying. The system is dying, and it wants to take you down with it. So it wants you to spend your energy and time pulling yourself into a lower frequency vibration of hatred and anger. Don't do it. Focus on creating. We need to create a parallel system now before the old system completely goes down. Because I know most people aren't even close to prepared. I'm very serious here. Stop wasting your time on a dying system. Let it die.